Hey everyone, Austin Schneider here. Welcome to Rise Podcast, where we talk about real influence, self-development, and entrepreneurship. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Rise Podcast. Super honored today because to me, we have a legend in my world, Rylee Meek. Rylee is a fantastic content creator. He's a killer salesperson. And what I love most about him is he is a vessel. He is a discipler, a true discipler. He loves to pour into people. He, from what I see, he's learned so much that he just is now just so passionate about, helping other people achieve greatness, honestly. And whenever I listen to Rylee speak or hear him, I feel injected with faith. I feel inspired, and I feel like I can do much more than I'm capable of. So Rylee, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Hey, Austin, thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate the introduction. This is going to be fun.
I like it. Well, I gave you a nice introduction, but let's give maybe the listeners or the viewers, if they've never seen or heard about you, who is Rylee Meek?
Yeah. Speaking of viewers, I'm just looking at your setup right now, bro. Like, you got to let me know your camera setup. That's incredible.
The beauty of working at a marketing agency and owning a marketing agency, we got all the camera gear, so I can make it look cool.
You got to clue me in, man. Is this going to be like on YouTube? Can people see this visually?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, listen up then, guys. Go to YouTube. Certainly subscribe to this thing on YouTube. Check out his camera setup. This is dope.
Good. Looks good. Credit to Jimmy.
Perfect. So right on, brother. Well, hey, I'm just happy to be here, man. An honor to you for just having me on. I really do appreciate it, man. And just what this podcast stands for and what you stand for. So I believe we're on the same mission together, and maybe just to give the listeners here an idea of who I am, because most people have no clue who I am. So the fact that you consider me a legend, man, I truly humbly, very, very humbly appreciate that. But that being said, dude, I grew up in a tiny town in South Dakota, of all places, like literally less than like 900 people in this town. So there wasn't a whole lot going on there. South Dakota is a great place to be from, but there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity. So from an early age, man, I knew that I was I was looking just to kind of get out and just explore what the world had for me. And little did I know it'd lead me to this path, but literally the day I graduated high school, I'd moved on up to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, which is where I'm at right now. And that would have been 2003. It's hard to believe, 17, 18 years ago now, a whole nother life ago. But I moved on up here, and that's really when I started kind of my entrepreneurial journey at a younger age, at the age of 15. And when I moved up here to go to school, my intent was to go to school to become a chiropractor. I loved the idea of kind of their holistic approach to medicine and just how the body works. I kind of geeked out to that, but I also like the idea that they're kind of entrepreneurs, right? Like it's one of the only careers where it's like you go to school for 8 years and then you still have to build a business on top of it. And that's when I really realized that, I was like, why? I'm not going to go like $200,000 in debt and then have to go build the business. I'm just going to start a business right now. And that's really what I did, man. And from there, it's kind of, I've had a lot of highs, a lot of lows from an entrepreneurial standpoint. But it's been a fun, truly a fun ride over the last, 15, 16 years now. I'm 30, hard to say, I'm 36 years of age now. And really my focus, I think the biggest thing from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's always like the thrill of the hunt, right? Like the idea of building something. It's not even like the prize itself that you get, right? But it's like just that thrill of it. And that's just what I've always really geeked out to, and why I've started so many different companies, really just from scratch, from, bootstrapping it. My very first real business I started with $673 in my bank account. And since then we've done 9 figures in revenue, time and time again. And so it's just been an incredible ride, like I mentioned, man. But our focus now is really coaching and teaching people. I think it's one thing, and a true thing, and when it comes to mastery is those, from a coaching standpoint, those who can't always tend to teach, right? Or they want to tell you what they're supposed to do or what you're supposed to do and how it's supposed to be done better. And I always thought that was, I heard that growing up, truthfully. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. And I always thought that was a bunch of bull. And so I've always, looked for the mentors and the coaches in my life that had the fruit that I wanted. And then I just looked to be around them. And that's really my philosophy, my suggestion and encouragement to anybody else even listening to this. Like, if you're looking for, you don't know what to do next, just look, like, get a true understanding of what do you really, really want? Like, what do you want out of life? Find somebody that has it, and then just go to be around them. Just go 100%. Be around them and glean off of them. And that's just what I did, man. And now that's really what we teach. And that's our philosophy throughout the King's Council, which is our coaching program, as you know, which has really been our passion. And just the movement, really truly a movement that we've been creating here for, man, it's only been about a year now, but it's been an absolutely epic ride.
Yeah, man. Love what you're doing. And your story is really cool. And one thing that stands out to be on your story, and you didn't hit it on too much detail, but it's just a product of continuing to break through barriers, continuing to take action, continuing to just do the next thing and do it well. And then another thing is, like, you were able to scale to a massive team you're servicing across, like, the United States, and really creating a system that pulls yourself out of it, a business that pulls yourself out of it. So credit to you, man. And then the coaching thing, man, so paramount. I think that's the most underrated thing in today's society, especially for young people like me who feel like they know everything and can feel like they can just Google the next best thing. It's like, having a coach is paramount. I'm a product of it. Braintegic, where we're at right now, would not be where it is without a mentor, without a coach. So what you're doing, especially in your niche, is just so powerful, man.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's exactly right. And I think that nowadays it is just there's so much information out there, right? Like to have an excuse of like why we didn't do something or we didn't know the answer to something. Like, at the end of the day, there's no excuses, right? Yeah. Like there's so much, but knowledge is not power, right? I remember growing up in my 7th grade homeroom, that was a big banner above our door, said knowledge is power. And I believed that at that time, yeah. But until I got into the real world and I was like, not even close. Like, knowledge with action can actually produce something, right? But like that's wisdom of, like, being able to go out and not succeed at everything, right? Because you're not going to succeed. I mean, it depends on what your definition of success is. But I look at anything that I'm taking action at, even if I don't get the result that I was looking for, I still succeeded at finding a good way not to do it. Yeah. Right. Like that's kind of what Thomas Edison did when inventing the light bulb. He didn't fail 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. He figured out 1,000 ways it didn't work. And that's just the perspective. I think that really separates the pros from the Joes of really anything when they're approaching whatever that is. As you know, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I know that's part of the Rise podcast. At the core of what entrepreneurship is, it's not that you own a business or that you are, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or anything, but the root word of entrepreneur, it's a French word, and I'll butcher this, but it's like entreprendre. I don't know, man. I don't speak French, but what that means, it means to undertake. That's all it means. So as an entrepreneur, you're the one, dude, that's like, hey, I'm willing to undertake this task at hand. And I believe that's what God is looking for. He's scanning the earth right now, looking for the undertakers. Like, who is going to take this world on with all the crap that's going on right now? And who's going to rise up, pun intended, bro, with your podcast, rise up and undertake the task at hand? Because at the end of the day, man, we're called to excellence in everything that we do. We are. If it's doing this podcast, like, dude, I want to be excellent, like your video setup. So that's why I want to know, how can I constantly be consciously aware of how I can be better? And if we can wake up every day with, have that mentality, that intentionality, that puts us in a position that God can use us, right? Opportunity is based upon our accessibility, not our ability. So if we make ourselves accessible to God, that allows him to use us in a way that we never even thought imaginable. And I really, that's part of our philosophy and what we teach within, again, our coaching program is like, just make yourself accessible, put yourself out there, be the entrepreneur willing to undertake the task at hand. And bro, I feel like I could go on multiple different tangents, but reel me back in here, man. Direct me on this.
I mean, so good. I love just the knowledge versus like the use of the knowledge. I think I had a Michael Easter, who is a author of a book called The Comfort Crisis. He said that people are so comfortable because there's so much information and we're in this information age that we can just get everything immediately, that we lack actually taking action on it. And it's like talking about biblical principles. Like, do you think Noah was like, do you think he was like thinking about like how to practically make the ark and like, or do you think that God was like, yo, Noah, like I'm calling you to this, you can do this, it's not going to rain for a very long time, but build the ark and actually put some effort forward and watch what's going to happen. Watch how many use you. And look what he did.
I love that, because that too, I mean, how that analysis paralysis that I think we can go through, because I've been guilty of it myself. And it's like we get confused with activity and productivity, because activity is not productivity, right? If Noah was going to just like start to line up his boards and figure out where, this is where the nails are going to be or whatever it's going to be, like, that's not productivity. It's actually, putting it together, putting the pieces together, because with action, that's what creates clarity. Action brings clarity. And so as he started, even though there was going to be rain for years and years and years, as he started to build this thing, it started to become clear. And I know that's what God does in our life, because if we saw the entire picture of what was going to happen, we would completely analysis paralysis thing, but he's just going to give us little nuggets. And if we take action on that, he'll give us another little nugget. And even if we make the decision that maybe wasn't the wisest decision, we've at least made that decision where now we can take a step back and we can pivot and take the next action. The point is that action, AKA making decisions and acting upon it, is really what's going to give us the clarity of where we're heading or what we're looking for, whether it be in business, whether it be in our relationships, or, leading our family. Whatever it is, it's so important to just take action on it, because we're in that society, as you mentioned, man, where it's like, there's so much knowledge out there, but nobody's actually doing anything or getting anything done because of that.
Yeah. Tom Bilyeu, billionaire Quest founder, he said that failure is the most powerful thing because it's just a data point. It's teaching you what not to do. And the more we can look at failure and be like, hey, that's just like a data point, and it just gives me all the information that I need in order to not do this again, then I can just move on to the next one. It's like taking your emotions, taking the comparison, especially the comparison. I think people get analysis paralysis because they're scrolling through Instagram and they're seeing all these other people posting their highlight reel, and they're like, man, like I can't do there. But like what you said, God is a step director. He's not going to give you in waves, right? He's going to give you the next step. Give you the next step. It's crazy, man.
It's good.
So you pour into a lot of young men. Is this like something like what are you seeing with people maybe just not fulfilling their potential or rising up to what God is calling them to do and in their life? I mean, I think there's a lot of people, especially in today's age with comparison, microwave culture, coronavirus, they feel a little stuck and they're like, man, am I doing enough? Am I doing all that I can do? Like what can we do to unstuck people?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question, because that is that stuckness, or what people would think like, I'm in a rut, or I'm stagnant. And at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that we are either progressing or we are regressing. Like there's no such thing as even being stuck. Like you're living or you're dying, right? And that's my philosophy, and that's why I am going to continually progress until the day that I die. Actually, our brains, the only thing in our entire body, our makeup, our brains can actually get better and better and better, more refined with the older we get, right? But as what tends to happen is when we age, when we retire, and we are no longer sharpening our skills, our brain starts to decline. And this is why you see, like, people talk about You should do crossword puzzles or the Sudoku, or I don't even know how to pronounce that, but like, it's to keep your brain sharp. And it's like, just like with any muscle or anything, man, you got to keep that thing dialed in and keep it sharp. Right. But to really truly answer your question, I think the biggest thing that people are struggling with like, I don't know, what to do, or I feel stuck. I truly believe it comes down to the core values that we have as human beings, in the identity that we think we have, or maybe we don't have, right? The identity of who we are, like, what is it that we really truly stand for? And if we can identify what that actually is, and then we start to create the vision for our life, the God-given vision. And we coach people through what we call the 7-day of creation template. Like, it's a God-given template that's been given to us. We actually have a playbook on how to do life. We do, right? It's the Bible, it's the Word of God. And if we actually applied the things in there, dude, it's incredible of what actually happens if we truly apply it. The problem is we complicate the crap out of it. We overanalyze it. We were like, well, does it say this or does it say this? And it's like, dude, there's templates in the Bible that we coach and we teach on, and it works every freaking time. Yeah. But the most important thing is who are we? Who really are we? Like the identity that we have. So one of the things that we teach within the King's Council is we develop, first off, our core values of like, okay, who are you? Like, and based upon that, we want to have core values for you as a person, you as a family, your business. Like if you're not operating with core values, and this is why it's so important to have these. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, or if you're a young entrepreneur and you're looking to start a family, dial this thing in, because your core values are going to be the disciplinary measurements of how you're going to make decisions, right? So as a family, we have core values that as the Meek family, we are a family of honor, intention, integrity. We're a family of excellence. We are a family of positive mindset, of leadership, and of generosity. And so we operate in that. We have a family kind of crest, essentially, that my wife and daughter have painted, and it's on our wall in the other room. And it's like, that's what we operate out of. So what I teach my 9-year-old is like, any decision that we make, we're going to make based upon these core values. And then we also develop what we call our personal contracts, right? So if people have followed the King's Council and they hear us chanting like these declarations over us, that's our personal contract. And for example, mine is, I am an intentional man of action, honor, and integrity. And the reason is, when I wake up every morning and I'm able to declare that over myself, it's not that I maybe operate in that manner all day, every day, right? That's not reality, because we live in a fallen world, right? There's a lot of junk that happens. And the day that I walk out of my house and get in into traffic and some dude cuts me off, and I'm like, okay, I'm an intentional man of action, of honor, and integrity. Like, I want my declaration and my core value, the contract of who I am, to dictate the decisions that I have to make, right? Mike Tyson said it best of, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? But what the point of having your core values and your declaration is that you're going to get punched in the face. And if you're not getting punched in the face, I would challenge you on, what are you doing? Right? Like, because if you're not being challenged or put in situations where maybe decisions are tough, or like you're not operating in your excellence, you're not, right? I mean, God didn't say this life was going to be easy. Okay. Sure. He never said that at all, but he's declared things that we know we're going to have to face trials, face tribulations. Like, that's a reality if we're walking out this life the way that he's called us to do so. And so if we can have these core values, and then based off of those, because at the end of the day, all these core values and the declarations that we make, it's not that I'm declaring something that I'm not. Okay. What it is I'm declaring something that I already am, that because if God is maybe in his image, I've been made in God's image. So I know that there's greatness inside me. There's seeds of greatness inside of me. There's seeds of greatness inside of you. Everybody that's listening to this. Okay. But the challenge is, the only way that those seeds are going to take root is based upon what's around them. Right? So think of a seed. If you're planting a seed, I'm a big garden analogy guy. The only way that that seed is going to take root and ultimately produce fruit is if that seed actually, if it takes root. And the only way that that seed's going to take root is if it's in proper soil. Okay. If it's getting watered, maybe some fertilizer, right? If we got to pull some weeds, otherwise the weeds will choke that seed right out.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to get proper sunlight. So in an analogy perspective in the real world, what does this actually mean? All right. So who's your seed? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Right? Who is it that you're spending the most of your time with? Because if you're looking in your circle, who you're spending time with, and you are not inspired, not motivated, because motivated is like an external factor that's like you're looking to achieve a goal. But if you're not like truly inspired, because inspired, the root of that means in spirit. It's an internal pull that's like, I just have to do this. Yeah. That's the passion that we have is it should be a wellspring, an inspiration that's out of us. And if your circle of friends aren't the ones that are inspiring you, you're not in a circle, bro. You're in a cage, right? So you got to find yourself and put yourself in a proper circle. Those that are going to draw that greatness out of you. And then again, what else are you watering it, fertilizing that seed with? Is it, what podcast are you listening to? You listen to podcasts like this? Right? Are you listening to books, Audible? What are you feeding yourself with? What are you fertilizing your seed with? Because, and then back to the weed analogy, bro, if you sometimes, and this is going to be the toughest thing for a lot of people, because this is the toughest thing for me. I had to pull the weeds. I had to get some of those turds out of my life, right? Like the hardest part is family. Yeah. Right. But also those are the biggest weeds in my life that started to choke out the fruit that I was trying to produce. Right. And I say trying in a manner, it's like you can try all day long, but if you're not intentional about who you're spending your time with, are you seeking first the kingdom of God? And then ultimately, are you watering that? Are you feeding it? Are you spending time in the Word of God? Are you listening to the right podcast? Are you getting your mindset filled with the proper things that's ultimately going to produce the fruit in the life that you want, right? And then once you've got the fruit wasn't meant to stay on the vine, because fruit can still, it can rot on the vine. Yeah. The point of bearing fruit is to pull it from the vine and then plant some new fruit. So if you're a young person and you're looking to rise up and become a leader, true mastery, as I mentioned earlier, it's like now the point of becoming a leader is to produce more leaders and to produce more leaders. That's generationally, the multi-generational impact that I know God has calling us right here, right now. Dude, October 2021, when we're recording this thing, right here, right now, God is raising up the next generation of leaders that is going to be the impact that has to happen. And it starts with people like you and I, Austin, with entrepreneurs that are willing to undertake this task at hand, that aren't listening to the media, that aren't buying into all the BS that's out there, but that are rooted in truth and know their truth, and then they're going to operate on that.
Come on,
sorry,
man. Right. So good, man. No, I mean, if someone's listening to this and they haven't thought of their daily habits or their weekly habits or the monthly habits, the way that you just explained, please rewind this and take some notes. The core values thing, I think, is so paramount. It's the foundation of someone's life. It's the compass, like if we use another analogy, I always use this from like a brainy perspective. The core values, it's like the foundation of your house. The deeper you work on the foundation, the deeper you actually intend to use your core values. What happens? The bigger the house, the bigger the skyscraper, the more fruit, right? So if you don't have your core values, get with Rylee, get with the King's Council, go through the core values training and just this system to help you have a good compass and foundation, because there's so many distractions that can pull you away from your core values, man. The world, the things of this world are just insane, especially right now, man. Yeah, it's so true. And that's just the important, again, component of who you're surrounding yourself with. For right? Sure.
What is that that circle of friends. I mean, it's the old cliche of like, you're the sum of the five people you're around, but really, truly, I think it's not even the five people in your life. It's more of like the most significant people in your life. Like, who are the ones that are speaking to you, speaking over you? Are you allowing that to take place? And if you are, is it somebody of influence that you're going to actually truly, value, right? Because I had a period of time in my life where people spoke a lot of negative things over me, and that I wasn't going to have it, right? I had to intentionally put myself in circles and seek out mentorship, pay money, right? Yeah. And if you don't have hear me too when I say this, anybody that's like, well, I don't necessarily have money to pay for a mentor, or I don't know. First out, there's always a way to make some money to do it, right? And if you don't have a seat at that table, serve water at the table. Totally. There's ways that you can serve to get yourself in situations just to be around people. That's all it takes. Just get in the room of people that have the fruit that you actually are looking for.
Yeah, so true. And I think you hit on one really good thing, which was the getting rid of weeds. I think for many people, that is the hardest thing to do, is set boundaries. Like, how do I tell this person no? How do I start saying no more often? How do I put up a boundary and just not really talk to this person? You mentioned your family. Like, that's got to be tough to do.
Yeah. I mean, it is tough. No doubt about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. But at the end of the day, it's coming back to the core values, your identity in Christ, right? Like who it is. Because at the end of the day, your mom and your dad, all they did was they got together and provided an atmosphere that God could do something with. So you're created in God's image, not in the image of your mom or your dad. Okay. God chose you for a purpose on this earth, right? He knew that somebody is going to need what you got. That's the sovereignty, the amazingness of our God. There's no like, oh, well, even if you come from like a terrible situation where you weren't wanted, you were an oops, right? I was an oops, right? My parents would admit to that. Right. But there's no oops in God's eyes.
Yeah, for sure.
Now there's free will on this earth for humans to do terrible things. Right. But out of that, God still is an amazing architect of and just his sovereignty of like, you're made it for a purpose on this earth. And if you own that, if you put your flag in the ground and you say, yes, I'm created in the image of God, there's greatness inside of me. Now I need that greatness to actually take root. And to pull that out, just to discover, like, what are my God-given talents and abilities? Like, what are they? Because some of us don't even know, right? I'm still learning some of mine, right? But that's the point of life. And that constant, like, progressing and regressing standpoint, there's so many gifts that we all have. That's what make us up as the body of Christ. Like, dude, from a marketing standpoint, you've got amazing gifts that I don't, right? So if I want to hire somebody, I'm gonna hire somebody like you. And most importantly, to build the kingdom economy, which is something that we're so focused on within the King's Council of like, and what I mean by that, guys, is like, hey, if I'm gonna hire somebody, if I'm gonna buy something, I'm gonna buy it from somebody that I'm gonna sow into, okay? Because the law of sow and reaping, whether you're a believer or not, this is a real freaking thing, okay? What I sow into, I'm going to reap, right? And I know, so if I can strategically put my dollar into somebody that I know is going to sow aggressively as well, right? When I say sow, S-O-W, what I'm sowing into, that's the kingdom economy. Those that are on the same mission and mindset that I'm on, that you're on, of like, hey, we gotta be loyal. Right. This is the crazy thing. And stop me if you don't want me to get into this, bro. But I love talking about this because there's so many religions out there that are extremely loyal to each other. Like the Muslim community, $1 in the Muslim community will exchange hands upwards of like 14 to 16 times before it leaves the Muslim community. The Jewish community is like 11 to 13 times. Meaning they're going to exchange the dollar and they're committed to another person of their values, their core values and their beliefs that they're going to sow into that person. And that's generational. The Christian community, hear me when I say this, dude, it's 0 to 1. 0-1. There's no sense of loyalty. If we can get it cheaper at Walmart because we save 3 cents versus buying it from maybe Hobby Lobby, which I know is a kingdom-backed business,
yeah,
we're going to save the 3 cents. And at the end of the day, if you believe in scripture, okay, if you believe it's the word of God, which I do, and this is why I take this so seriously from a entrepreneurial and an income producing standpoint, it says in scripture that we cannot serve 2 masters. It says we cannot serve God and money. Okay. And this is where it gets so construed of like, if you have money, you must not be a good person, right? You're like, Christians have to be poor, right? Yeah. I grew up thinking that way. And when I started actually reading the word of God, I was like, this isn't what I was taught.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. How do we know if we're serving God or money or serving anybody in any situation? And it's real simple. Who or what is dictating the decision? That's how you know. So this goes into saying, and not just a desire to make money, because I have a desire to produce wealth. That I do. That is a desire that I know God has given to me. And it also says in Deuteronomy that God gives us the ability to create wealth. Okay, but I know in my ability and my desire to create wealth, I'm still serving God. And this is how you know if you're serving money or you're serving God. What's dictating the decision? Okay, so if your decision is to save money by saving 3 cents over here versus pouring into somebody that you could sow into, that's going to be generational, you're serving money. Yeah. Whether you're serving money in a way to make it or you're serving money in a way to save it, you're serving money in that situation. You ain't serving God.
Yeah.
Right. So if people could actually get this concept and put, again, opportunity is based upon our accessibility. I want to put myself in an accessible position that God can use. So if I'm going to choose to spend $1 more on something because it's kingdom backed, I know I'm not serving money in that situation. I'm serving God because I serve a God of abundance, not lack.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm operating in a position of lack all the time and my decisions are based upon the little tiny bit that I have, no. The parable of the talents tells us that the dude who just buried it, didn't do anything with it, took it from him, and then gave it to the dude that actually stewarded it well.
Yeah.
And turned the 5 talents into 5 more talents. Like God, this is again who God is calling up and raising up right now. But it starts again with people that we can change the mindset. True word of God, not this freaking broke, woe is me mentality that we've been brainwashed with. And this is how I know this is truth too, bro. This is how I'm sorry I get fired up about this, but this is how I know this is true. If the love of money, right, again, which the love of money, if you think about like what does a person do when they love it? Okay, I love my wife, right? So when I was pursuing her, I loved her, so I pursued her. I did things that were just like, I constantly thought about her.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, when I didn't get her for certain situations, like I was so disappointed and distraught. Right. So when we're thinking about when we love money, what are we doing? We're constantly chasing it. We're constantly thinking about it. And if I don't get it, I'm extremely like just distraught. That's the love of money. Right. And at the end of the day, if money was the root of all evil, don't you think Satan would be like, get these Christians rich? They get them all the money because it's the root of all evil. Not the case. Right. We gotta steward this well. That's what we're called to do, is steward this well. And again, that's what I know God has called us to do, and why we're raising up this new generation of kingdom-minded entrepreneurs that have a desire to create wealth and steward it appropriately for the kingdom. Because when I read the story of the Good Samaritan, and it's like the priest, the Levite passed on the other side, and then the businessman approaches and bandages him up and puts on put oils and wraps, puts him in the inn, pays for the dude to stay in the inn, leaves extra money and says, I've got to go, probably to attend to business. And when I come back, if there's still a debt due, I will pay it.
Yeah.
And then 2 verses later, Jesus says this, go and do likewise. So I know that it is incredibly expensive to be the Good Samaritan. Okay. And if anybody that's on this is is a quote unquote Christian or a believer, and you just have a desire, like, man, I would love to give to this. I'd love to give to that. I'd love to give to this. Then why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you? It's because you don't have enough of it.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't give what you don't get. So put yourself in a position to get it from God, operate in excellence in everything that you do. No longer let saving money be the dictator of it, because you're serving money in that standpoint. Put yourself in a position to serve God, make money serve you. Then we can continue to go and do likewise as the Good Samaritan.
Come on. So good, man. I feel like you're calling me out right now. But I didn't really like something that stuck with me. And this is for me just as much as it is for the listeners and watchers is, the kingdom economy. Like I've never really thought about that when I'm making purchase decisions. It's like, man, who am I supporting and what are they supporting? And then even kind of translating to, generating wealth. It's like, what is my reason for generating wealth? What is the deeper meaning behind it? Is it to make myself look cooler? Is it to buy the next best thing? Or what is that real search for meaning? And I think about Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, that book where it's like, what is your why? What is your core values? Like he could literally predict when people were going to die because they didn't have a search for the meaning. But it's like, if you're kingdom driven and you're passionate to get wealth for the kingdom, and if you're given small right now, even though you have small, it's like, be faithful in the little things and watch what God will do in the multiplication of it and over. Like the reap what you can sow. If you're not a believer and you're listening to this, it's like, that's proven by science actually. So You're welcome. Go try it. So man, that is so good. Yeah. Good stuff, Rylee. One thing that I do want to hit on, because I think we didn't touch on this a lot, is your story. And you were pretty successful financially with the business, with all that stuff. You still are continuing to grow. What would you say, like, have been some clues of your last, 10 or so years of really scaling and growing? Because it takes a lot of courage, one, and then a lot of weight on your shoulders to carry the burden of all those employees and systems and trainings and all that stuff. I get it. So like, what would you say the couple of clues would be?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So early on, dude, my story in a nutshell, I originally gave my life to Christ at the age of 16, experienced some amazing times in my life, like with just a solid group of dudes. Again, I did go to college for 2 years, just some amazing bros that I developed this fellowship with that was unbelievable, to the point where I feel like I don't even talk to any of those guys anymore, but it was a season of my life that I feel like if I called any of them right now and was like, dude, I got to bury a body, they would say, you driving or am I? Right? There would be no questions asked. That's the brothership that we formed during that time. And when I went off and started to really, truly build my businesses to scale, where it was back to that thrill of the hunt, where it was always about the chase for me. Okay. And this is in the moment, you don't necessarily know that this is how you're operating in the moment. Now it's easy for me to figure this out. This is why my first marriage ended in divorce. Like reality, the day that I said I do, it was like, I checked the box and it was like, okay, now what? Right. And when I look back, it's like how the first 8 companies that I created, every single one of those went from 0 to 7 figures. A couple of them we hit 8 figures within the first 9 months of every single one of them. It was like, bam. Okay. Next one, bam, next one, bam. And on that note, it had 0 to do with me. Okay. It was the systems and the processes that we put in place that allowed that to happen. Okay. So if you're in business and you feel like the job owns you, the business owns you, you're not in a business. Like you buy yourself a job. Yeah. Okay. And so it's important to look for, number one, how to delegate. Okay. And then maybe we can do a follow-up episode, Austin. I'd love to even wrap more on this, like how to delegate and then how to put these systems and procedures in place. And through that, made some great money, had some epic failures, right? Feedback. Yeah. Okay. But I learned through that process. But here's the biggest thing that I learned, man. Money only makes us more of who we already are. Right. So if you're a butthead right now and if you're striving to make a bunch of money, you're just gonna be a rich butthead. Yeah. And I realized it was the great magnifier of who I really truly was. And when that came out, I realized I didn't like who I was. And thank God he had his hand on me still. And he was like, dude, I'm taking you through this process to refine you and make you the man that I need you to be. Right. I'm still not, and I'm still I'm in my process. We're all running a race.
Yeah.
Right. We are all running this race, this marathon that there's going to be sprints, that we're going to be walking, there's going to be jogging, but this is a race that we're running called life. And this is why my commitment to just always to get better and better and better. Because at the end of the day, the prize in itself, like I already know I'm going to heaven. That's the prize. Yeah. Right? Philippians, we talk about the higher calling that we have. There's the prize, the higher calling. But Paul, he tells us to actually really focus on the mark. Yeah. Right? Like, what is the mark that you're focusing on? And it's going to change at different seasons in our life. But I've always known that if I serve my purpose in my season, my calling will eventually find me. So that's what I did. And through that, I had just great feelings of unfulfillment. Yeah. Like to the core, like from the outside looking in, you would think that I got everything going on, right? Beautiful home, cars, travel, did what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want. Like but I had this hole inside my heart like no other. And this was only a few years ago, man. And my wife and I, we just moved here on the lake. We were sitting downstairs and it was this time in our life where it was just like, what's next? Because businesses were kind of on autopilot. It's like, I could just go start another business, but like that was not doing it for me anymore. Yeah. And I started scrolling on Instagram, right? And I'd followed this dude for a period of time named Steve Weatherford. And he was always about bigger arms, six-pack abs, things like that. And then all of a sudden there was a change. And he started to talk about this guy named Jesus. And it got my attention. I was like, okay, like what's going on here? What is this? Because this is something that I pretty much put on this back burner for my life. And I knew it, right? I knew it. And I know some of our listeners right now probably even know it too. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I haven't been pursuing God. But hear me when I say this, he's there. He's just waiting for you to show up. Like he just says, he stands at the doors and knocks and he waits for it to open the freaking door. And if we just open, if we give him a little bit, he's going to show up every stinking time, every time. Yeah. And so I saw this DM, these stories of Steve all of a sudden having this new like vibrancy going on. And I looked over at my wife and I said, I think I'm gonna be best friends with this guy someday. And here's the biggest thing. I'd never met him in my life. But here's the biggest thing, I think, for any of you that are listening that have a spouse or significant other, like whether you're a woman, you have a male significant other, or you're a dude like me and your wife, right? Like what she did was she stood in agreement. And there's something that's so powerful in this that allowed me, that unlocked something within me. And it wasn't even like an agreement of like, yeah, go Rylee. It was, I don't doubt you will, Rylee. It was kind of like a whatever type of deal, but that unlocked me. And so I DM'd him and he DM'd me back. And so here's the thing too. If you see that person in your life that you want, they have the fruit that you want, go out on a limb. For real. What's the worst that could happen? Take a little bit of, it's not even a risk. Me DMing him was not a risk. No, it was that. It's just more of an insecurity, a self-limiting belief. That's like, that's first off, that's not who God called us to be. He did not give us a spirit of fear, right? That's not. So if you're experiencing any of that, know that it's so important just to take that little risk, take that little leap of faith. And I DM'd him and we set up a call. He was actually taking on coaching clients. And so I was like, all right, cool. I was paid him $3,000 a month to hop on a 1 hour call with him once a week. And we did this for probably like 4 or 5 months and we built a relationship, right? So again, I sought out what I wanted. I had to pay money for it. And then I was like, all right, tell me just about this. Like, what do you got going on? We built a great relationship. And then through that, he asked me to partner with him on what we didn't even know was the King's Council at the time. It was like he had a 12-week coaching program with some dudes that he had helped develop this contract language and these core values. But then from there, he was like, man, I really need somebody that can kind of come alongside from that entrepreneurial, that business standpoint. Yeah. And he was like, would you consider, and before he even finished the sentence, I was like, I'm in.
Heck yeah.
Let's do this. We did our first challenge called the Win Big in Business Challenge, which happened like literally 54 weeks ago. And that spurred our, it was that with action comes clarity. We had no idea. I'd never done an online challenge or any of that stuff before, but I was going to start taking action. And we sought out mentors. People like Nick Unsworth, who has Life on Fire. And he was like, well, this is what you do. This is how you do it. It's like, all right, cool. Just took the steps. And then, fast forward 1 year later, we got people all over the country, all over the world. We have people in Africa, New Zealand, Canada, like all over that are in the King's Council that are on mission. This movement that we have here to take territory, to stand up, to be the entrepreneur that we know we're called to be, and to operate in our giftings, to discover, develop, and deploy our God-given talents and abilities, and ultimately have the vision and the purpose, not just to leave a legacy, but to live their legacy right here, right now.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I know you got a jet, but if you listen to this podcast, if you made this far, do yourself a favor. If anything has stood out to you, check out King's Council. I'm a big fan of it. Rylee, I can tell you're just completely in your lane right now, like just loving it. Like the content that you're feeding into these people, I can just tell are just transforming people, and the people that we talked about before in the green room of who we kind of know mutually, can really see it transforming and helping a lot of people out. And you're on mission too, man. And I'm behind you and would love to have you back on to talk about business tactics and all that good stuff. But where can people find you?
Probably the most, the place that we're usually the most active on is going to be Instagram, the Rylee Meek, RYLEE, MEEK. And I actually, how about this, bro? So I mentioned the 7 Day of Creation template, the God-given template that the Bible gives us. But some people are maybe questioning, like, okay, what does that mean? I'm telling you, God has given us a blueprint on how to operate our business, how to start it from this ground up. And if you're already operating in it, how to really pinpoint exactly where your struggles are. And this is the 7 Day of Creation template. And I've got it, man. If it's all right, I'll if somebody just text me, text us the number 7 or S. We can type it out to SEVEN. Text me at 727-472-3860. 727-472-3860. I'll get you the template. And that way you can start to walk this thing out. If you even have any questions on it, I'd be happy to have myself or somebody get on the team and wrap through that with you of how to really operate using the God-given template that he's given us.
Come on. We'll put that in the show notes to make sure everybody gets it.
Solid.
Rylee, thank you, bro.